as it turns out, contrary to the mainstream narrative, law enforcement officers actually care about their communities and care about people and want to do their job. And so you've got sheriffs like my sheriff in Wright County, Sean Derringer, who made the conscientious decision to keep his SROs in our schools in Wright County. But that was not an affirmation of what the Democrats did. If you talk to him, he will readily tell you that he is assuming a risk of something going wrong and potentially having a deputy in a bad situation as a result of the ambiguity in the language. Now, I want
to
to
need the language, sir. Excuse me. Why do we need? Why is the state involved here? Wright County can work with the school and say, "Here's our little rules. We'll figure that out." Same in Blue Earth, and that's going to be a lot different than Minneapolis and St. Paul. So why do you guys get to write a rule and say just either jump on or get off? Get
there's
out.
a great there's an answer to that question.
All right.
I want to get you there by first giving you some of the background, because
Go ahead.
this whole issue has been taking place in a fog of war, especially for normal people, residents of Minnesota who are just going about their business, but also for folks like me who hold an election certificate and properly ought to be privy to the process. And I want to tee this up by citing remarks from Speaker Melissa Hortman that she made on the House floor this Monday at the very start of session to the press when she was asked about this being an election year. She said that she believes in the axiom that when you come here to the Capitol, you take off your red jersey, you take off your blue jersey, you put on your Minnesota jersey, and you work for the best interests of the people in order to formulate the best policy for the state. Now, that is absolutely what we should be doing. Instead, let me tell you how we got into this situation with SROs. You said we could have been having conversations with people this whole time during interim. Well, conversations were being had. Guess who wasn't involved? Anybody in the minority, anybody with a red jersey, to use the speaker's phrase. We were completely excluded from the process. And now we know why, because the language about a week prior to session, there was a bipartisan listening session where police chiefs and school administrators and students outlined the case why we need to fix this problem. And at that meeting, Speaker Melissa Hortman and Public Safety Chair Kelly Moeller got up and said, "We've got language, we've got a bill, it's going to be coming. Don't you worry. We're talking to stakeholders. You just wait and see." I was sitting next to Chair Moeller at that meeting. I turned to her and I said, "When do we in the minority get to see this language that you've been working on?" She said, "Oh, in about a week. We're still ironing out the details." Well, we didn't see the details until a couple of days, a few hours before the session started. And then immediately we're having committee hearings on it on Monday and Tuesday. And as it turns out, the reason why we weren't allowed to see this language and why we weren't part of the conversations involved in developing it is because of what the bill actually does. And what the bill actually does is it removes the offending language from statute. But in turn, which that's the thing, is you could solve this problem with a simple repealer, right? Like you just cross out the stupid language you had last year. One page, less than one page. But instead of do that, they came up with an 8-page bill that creates a whole new multi-layers of bureaucracy and empowers the post board, which is the licensing board that determines whether or not a cop can even be a cop, to come up with model policy, which then every law enforcement agency contracting a school resource officer in the state shall adopt that model policy under threat of license sanction, which means if you don't do what the post board says as an SRO, you could lose your license to be a cop. Why do you need to do that?
See, why? Sorry, I get so frustrated. We hire, quotes here, we vote you people in to vote for this stuff so I can hold you accountable. We need a new flag. Okay, well, let's have this committee put it together and let me know how that works out. Well, you know what? I think we need a new house building. That'll be $750 million. Well, we don't want to vote on that. That would hurt us. Let's just get this thing we'll do this backdoor deal. Obviously get a $750 million deal. Now we have an SRO problem that we started, and we're going to put that committee that Al has no idea who's on it, and they can be in charge and they can make it up. When do people get tired of this? I want to be able to look at Representative Hudson and say, you voted against this. Why? You tell me, and I can either say yay or nay the next time I vote. Why do we make this complicated? It's just infuriating.
Well, I can tell you exactly why, because it's been disclosed in committee. So the Democrat chief author of their quote unquote fix to this SRO issue is Cedric Frazier, who is arguably the most rabidly anti-cop legislator that they have. The idea that he's the one who's going to fix this is on its face quite absurd. And indeed, that's not his goal. So if you listen to the committee interactions between him and other DFL legislators, Athena Hollins, chief among them, what you will hear, and I also sat in, I went over, walked across the street to the Senate and sat in on their education committee hearing on this same bill that's being, has a companion over there on the Senate side. And the chief author there said the exact same thing, which is that the core provision of their fix is this model policy. The thing that they are, their baby, the thing that they are most concerned about getting across the finish line is the ability of the post board to tell SROs how to do their job. Now, the only reason why they would care about that is if they are anticipating that the post board is going to impose a different standard for use of force than the reasonable use of force standard that applies in every other context. In other words, they want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to be able to claim that they fixed the problem by taking it out of statute while providing a mechanism for the exact same issue to be reimposed through administrative fiat by appointees of the governor who are a bunch of activists who all agree with the anti-cop BLM narrative. That is what is going on here. That is their motivation.